Welcome to another Tech Help video brought to you by AccessLearningZone.com. I'm your instructor, Richard Rost. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through all the different data types that you should know as a beginner. And we're going to walk through some of the mistakes that I see beginners make all the time when setting up their tables. There are some data types you should definitely learn and use, and there are some data types that you shouldn't bother concerning yourself with until you're much more advanced. And there are others that you shouldn't use at all, ever. At any time. Just don't do it. Just don't. I'll tell you which ones they are in just a few minutes. And even if you are an advanced user, you might benefit from my almost 30 years of wisdom doing this stuff. So, all right, here we go. First up, short text. Most of the fields that you're going to make are going to be short text fields. Even if you think something should be stored as a number, like a phone number or a zip code or a social security number, right? A lot of things that have the word number in them aren't necessarily numbers. And as far as the database is concerned, these things should be stored as short text. My litmus test is, are you ever going to be doing math on this field? Okay, are you going to ever add together a bunch of phone numbers, right? Take the average of some zip codes? No. So if you're not going to be doing math on it, right, calculations on it, store it as text. Why? Just trust me. It's easier to deal with text in a lot of situations than it is with numbers. And yes, since this is a beginner video, a lot of what you're going to hear is, just trust me, you'll thank me later, okay? It's a short video. I'm not going to go into all the details. I cover a lot more details in my full course, okay? You will have the option to change the field size. Now, in older versions of Access, it was important to keep that field size smaller. Like a first name would never be 255 characters long, right? So you'd want to bring that down to something like 20. That's back when Access wasn't great with managing the space of the files on the hard drive, and it could waste space if that number was too big. Now that's not a problem. Leave it 255. Just leave it, right? Access will utilize that space properly now. All right, unless you have a reason to keep that smaller, like, for example, a social security number. Right, that's always going to be 9 digits. It's never different. Actually, I think there is a situation where you could have a 10-digit social security number. So there are some situations where you might want to bring that down. But generally, especially now when you're a beginner, don't worry too much about that field size. Just leave it at 255. You can worry about that later. You can always make it smaller later. All right, next up, long text. These are for fields that store lots and lots of information, like notes. Okay? Use them sparingly, but use them if you need to. Just don't take things that should be in short text and put them in long text, because long text fields aren't as efficient as short text fields. And there's some tricks and some things you can't do with long text fields, like you can't put them in combo boxes, that kind of stuff. So if you absolutely are sure that you need more than 255 spaces, put it in long text, but use them sparingly. And if you are going to use a lot of long text fields in your tables, make sure you compact and repair your database often. And if you don't know what that is, I got a separate video on compact and repair. I'll put a link down below. You can go watch that. Next up is numbers. Now, there's two kinds of numbers you're going to use right now as you're a beginner. Long integer and double. That's it. Don't worry about any of the other data types. Okay? Don't use decimal. This guy right here, lots of people get in trouble using decimal. Decimal's got its own rules. And yeah, it's pretty cool, but it's a more advanced thing. Okay? If you need counting numbers, right? Whole numbers, integers, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, that kind of thing. Use a long integer. Don't worry about byte. Don't worry about integer. Use long integer always. And if you need floating points, right? Decimal points, 3.2, for example, always use double. Don't worry about single. Don't use decimal. And don't worry about this thing called a replication ID. All right? So what do you use? Long integer, double, period. That's it. All right? I cover the other ones in my expert classes. You don't need to worry about them right now. Date and time fields. Very useful field. One thing to remember as a beginner, that a date time field stores both a date and a time in the same field. You don't need a separate one for the day and then the time. Okay, it's together. A value of 1 equals 1 day. And I got a whole separate video on date math. It's really cool. You should watch that. I'll put a link down below. But it's really handy because if you take a date, all right, like January 1st, and you add 1 to it, now you go 1 day in the future, okay? Just knowing that little rule is very helpful. Skip the extended date time. You don't need that, all right? I think I put it in 2 spots, right? Date time extended. And this is a question a lot of beginners ask, if you want to put a default date in there, there's two functions that are handy. There's date and there's now, and you put them right here in the default value, just like that, right under the datetime field, right? Date gives you today's date at midnight. Now gives you today's date and time to the second. All right, a lot of times people like when you have you're making an order entry system, you want to have the default order date be today's date or right now if you want. All right, that's all you really got to worry about with dates and times right now. There's millions of functions that are available for dates and times, like, you know, calculating the difference between two dates, all kinds of crazy stuff. And I have videos on all of that. But for now, just datetime is datetime. Okay. Currency value, pretty straightforward. It's a special optimized number that is designed for currencies. Use it, right? It's specially designed to work with currency values. And that's pretty much all I got to say. That's all I got to say about that. Okay? All right. Auto numbers. Big deal. All right. I've got probably a dozen videos on auto numbers. I'll put a link down below because auto numbers are one of the most misunderstood things in all of Access. Right now, since you're a beginner, every table should have an auto number. Customer table should have a customer ID. An order table should have an order ID. An employee table should have an employee ID. Every table should have an auto number. Okay? And that's called your primary key. It has two purposes. All right? Number one is so that every record can be uniquely identified, right? You only have one customer number 5. And the second reason is to make relationships between tables. That's a little more advanced. Don't worry about that right now. But those are the only two things you have to worry about. Auto numbers are not for you. You should not care what they are. It doesn't matter if someone's customer number 6 or customer number 552. That is completely irrelevant. Okay? Can you add a different, like a customer code if you've got an existing numbering system? Sure. Make that a second field. All right? Put the auto number in there. Let Access handle it. Let Access do its thing. All right? You don't worry about it. Stick with long integer and increment down here. Don't try to change those settings. There are some different options. Don't mess with that. Just leave it alone. Okay, and go watch my auto number videos. Again, I'll put a link down below. We'll talk about all these extra videos in a few minutes. I got tons of videos on auto numbers. And again, for expert users, there are some exceptions. But for you, for beginners, just do what I tell you to do. Okay, just do it. Do it. Do it. Bacardi and Cola, do it. What movie? Who knows what movie that's from? All right, next up, yes, no values. These are fine. These are called Boolean values. They're either true, false, yes, no, on, off. Change the format if you want. That's not going to affect much. Okay, and yeah, I'm using PowerPoint. You can tell a little cursor there. One thing that beginners should know is that if you are going to use yes, no values in your queries, sometimes they'll show up as 0 for no and -1 for yes, which is different from some other database systems. Because in a lot of other database systems, like even SQL Server, yes is 1. Well, in Access, it's -1. Why? It's a big, long explanation. Don't worry about it. Just know that if you want to add up a bunch of yes-no fields, for example, you can take the sum of them and multiply it by -1, and that gives you the count. So that's pretty cool, right? Okay. Yeah, but yes-no values are fine. Now, this brings me to my list of all the things you should avoid in Access. Even though they're there, I don't want you to use them. And if you're going to be learning Access with me and following along with my courses, I don't use these. You're not going to use them with me. No. Some of them are just, you don't need to worry about them right now. Other ones are just plain evil. Large number and date time extended, those are good, but those are for more advanced users. All right, those are largely for compatibility with SQL Server. You don't need to worry about those right now. OLE objects, I used to use those back in the day before I knew better, but an OLE object stands for object linking and embedding. That's where you can take any other kind of object, like a file, like a Word document or a picture or a PDF file, and you can actually store that inside your database. And that's bad, all right, because that will bloat your database. It causes it to run slower. It's a bad idea to do that. What you want to do is store those objects as external files in a folder somewhere and keep a link to them in the database. I got a whole separate video on imaging, which shows you how to do that with images. Other file types work pretty much the same way. Hyperlinks. Hyperlinks are okay, but I don't like using them because hyperlinks are basically, you can have email addresses or web page links, things like that, where, you know, when you click on them, it opens up your web browser and it takes you to a web page, or it opens up your email program to send an email. I just don't like those because they're stored as text inside the table, but there's some weird formatting and some rules that are associated with it. And to break those apart later on is a pain. So I've got a better way. I want you to store hyperlink things like URLs and email addresses. I want you to store them just as short text fields. And then I have other videos that I could teach you how to click on them and launch your web browser, or click on them and send an email. All right, so don't use the hyperlink data type. I don't like it. Attachments, just like OLE objects, they're a big no-no. You can actually attach files to your tables and store files inside your database. Do not do it. I do not like it. I cannot like it, Sam I am, or however that goes. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like attachments. Calculated values. Sometimes for advanced users, a calculated value in a table has some use, but try not to use those. I prefer calculated values to be performed in queries. Don't store those in your tables. I got a whole separate set of videos on why you want to do that. I'll put a link to my calculated query fields down below. Use queries to do your calculations. Don't store those in your tables. And finally, the lookup wizard. Again, the lookup wizard is to allow you, it's basically a crutch. It's to take what should be done with relationships in two tables and do it in one table. It's like looking up a value. Let's say you want to pick from a list of states or pick from a list of employees. Oops, someone's beaming in. Right, that should be done properly by using two tables with a relationship between them and a combo box and all kinds of stuff. The lookup wizard lets you put all that inside of a table field, which is not the way you properly build databases. And it's basically a crutch for beginner users to be able to do that. And it's something that does take a little more work, but you should do it properly, because to take something that's done wrong with a lookup wizard and to fix it later on is a pain in the butt. So again, trust me, don't use the lookup wizards. You want to use what's called a relational combo box. I'll put a link to that video down below as well. Now, a lot of times people have come to me and said, you know, Rick, I don't really want to be an advanced Access developer, right? Why can't I use these crutch features that are in there, like calculated fields and tables and attachments and lookup wizard? And that's fine, sure. Microsoft added a lot of these features to Access to make it easier for beginners to do things. But in so doing, they wrapped up these features in what's not considered proper database design by a lot of the experts, myself included. That's why we don't like doing things like using table lookup wizards. Okay, it's not the right way you should do it. And if you don't want to ever be an advanced Access developer and you just want to use these features, that's fine. But I've had a lot of my students that have said this to me and have come back, you know, a year or two later, and they're looking for me to help them to fix it because they didn't listen to me in the first time, and they come back and say, yeah, I should have listened to you. And then I got to help them get all the calculated fields out of their tables. Okay? So just trust me. Even though you might, a lot of people think that they're not going to, you know, get it deep into Access. And honestly, when you start working with it and you start using it and you start loving it, you start seeing what it can do, you get hooked. I didn't have any designs on being an Access expert when I started using it back in 1994. And then after working with it for a couple of years, I fell in love with it. That's all I've pretty much been doing for the past nearly 30 years now. So yeah, it grows on you. So just take it from me, avoid those features. All right, now there's some links down below in the links section in the description below the video, and there's a whole bunch of interesting things that I want you to go watch or read or whatever. First is my evil Access stuff page. These are all the things you shouldn't do. All right, like spaces in your table names. All right, use reserved words for fields, things like that. And I got videos that go with most of these, and if not, I'll have videos that go with them soon. Okay, so go check that out first. You'll also find links down below for a lot of the things that I mentioned in this video, like compacting and repairing your database. Very important to do this on a regular basis. Of course, it depends on how much you use your database. I'd say once a month is good. So go watch this one. These are all free videos, by the way. All the things I'm mentioning right now, they're all free. They're on my website. They're on my YouTube channel. Go watch them. If you want to learn more about how dates work in Access, dates and times, go watch my date math video. Lots of cool tricks in that one. I got a whole bunch of videos on auto numbers, all kinds of different ones. Right, here they all are. Right, are they good or bad? They're not for you. How do you restore a deleted one? All kinds of stuff. If you want to learn to work with images in your databases, don't use OLE objects or attachments, watch my images video. My hyperlink fields video will teach you the proper way that you should store hyperlinks in your tables. Here's the video I mentioned on calculated fields that should be done in queries or sometimes directly on forms too. You could put a form footer calculation in there, but don't put them in the tables. And here's that video on a relational combo box. This is the proper way to handle a lookup, people. You're going to have two tables involved, and you're going to look the values up from a different table. All right, it's a little more advanced, and that requires knowing relationships well. And of course, I got a good video for you to watch on relationships. Okay, so go watch all of those things and they'll make you a better Access developer. So here's the rundown again. Good stuff: short text, long text, numbers, long int and double only, right? Date time, currency, yes, no, auto number. Avoid everything else. Don't use them. And if you want to learn why, watch those other videos. I'll explain why in more detail in those other videos. But for now, if you're just getting started off with Access, stick to this list over here. Okay, this stuff here. Okay. And of course, in my Access beginner lessons, I spend a lot of time going over all the different stuff as far as data types and building tables and all that great stuff. Right, level 1 is free. It's 4 hours. Level 2, we go over a lot more stuff. And then level 3 and beyond, right? All kinds of field properties, field size, decimal places, input masks, all the different things about building tables in the next couple of lessons. Now, those of you who've been working with Access for a while, do you disagree with me? Do you have some different ideas on data types? Do you not agree with some of the stuff that I said? I want to hear from you in the comments. What do you have to think? All right, I can just go from my experience and having been doing this for nearly 30 years. But, hey, if you got some ideas, some things that I didn't think about, let me know. Post them in the comments down below. I love learning this stuff too. I don't claim to know everything there is to know about Access. I still learn something every week. Right? If I don't learn something new, to me it's a bad week. But that is going to be your tech help video for today. I hope you learned something. Live long and prosper, my friends. I'll see you next time. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and post any comments you may have below. I do try to read and answer all of them as soon as I can. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, which is completely free. Click the bell icon and select all to receive notifications when new videos are posted. Want to learn more? Click the Show More link below the video to find additional resources and links. YouTube does a pretty good job of hiding it. It's right down there. See this part of the description here, right? The name, the video's up here. There's a little Show More down there, right down the bottom. It's kind of hard to find. But once you click on that, you'll see a list of other videos, additional information related to the current topic, free lessons, and lots more. And YouTube no longer sends out email notifications when new videos are posted like they used to do. But if you'd like to get an email every time I post a new video, click on the link to join my mailing list. And you can pick how frequently to get emails from me, either as they happen, daily, weekly, or monthly. Now, if you'd like to become a paid member of my channel and receive all kinds of awesome perks, click on the Join button. You'll see a list of all the different membership levels that are available, each with its own special perks, including my extended cut videos, access to my code vault, lots of VBA source code in there, template downloads, and lots more. I'll talk more about these perks at the end of the video. Even if you don't want to commit to becoming a paid member and you'd like to help support my work, please feel free to click on the tip jar link. Your patronage is greatly appreciated and will help keep these free videos coming. I got some puppies to feed. But don't worry, no matter what, these free tech help videos are going to keep coming. As long as you keep watching them, I'll keep making more, and they'll always be free. Now, if you really want to learn Access and you haven't tried my free Access Level 1 course, check it out now. It covers all the basics of Microsoft Access, including building forms, queries, reports, and more. It's over 4 hours long. You can find it on my website or on my YouTube channel. I'll put a link down below you can click on. And did I mention it's completely free? The whole thing, free, 4 hours. Go watch it. And okay, a lot of you have told me that you don't have time to sit through a 4-hour course. So I do now have a quicker Microsoft Access for Beginners video that covers all the basics faster in about 30 minutes. And no, I didn't just put the video on fast forward. But I'll put a link to this down below as well. Now, if you like level 1, level 2 is just $1. That's it, $1. And that's another whole 90-minute course. Level 2 is also free for paid members of any level, including supporters. So if you're a member, go watch level 2. It's free. Okay, want to get your question answered in a video just like this one? Visit my tech help page and send me your question there. Members get priority, of course. While I do try to read and respond to all of the comments posted below in the comments section, I only have time to go through them briefly a couple of times a month, and sometimes I get thousands of them. So send me your question here on the Tech Help page, and you'll have a better chance of getting it answered. And while you're on my website, be sure to stop by my Access forum. We've got lots of lively conversations about Microsoft Access and other topics. I have a fantastic group of moderators who help me answer questions. Shout out to Alex, Kevin, Scott, Adam, John, Dan, Juan, and everybody else who helps out on the site. I appreciate everything you do. I couldn't do it without you. Be sure to follow my blog, find me on Twitter, and of course on YouTube. Yeah, I'm on Facebook too, but I don't like Facebook. Don't get me started. Now, let's talk more about those member perks if you do decide to join as a paid member. There are different levels: silver, gold, platinum, and diamond. Silver members and up get access to all of my extended cut Tech Help videos, one free beginner class every month, and some other perks. Gold members get all the previous perks, plus access to download the sample databases that I build in my Tech Help videos, plus access to my code vault where I keep tons of different functions that I use, the code that I build in most of the videos. You'll also get higher priority if you do submit any Tech Help questions. Now, answers are never guaranteed, but you do go higher in the list for me to read them. And if I like your question, you got a good chance of it being answered. You'll also get one free expert level class each month after you've finished the beginner series. Platinum members get all the previous perks plus even higher priority for Tech Help questions. You get access to all of my full beginner level courses for every subject. And I cover lots of different subjects like Word, Excel, VBA, ASP, lots of different stuff, not just Access. These are the full-length courses found on my website. You get all the beginner ones. In addition, once you finish the expert classes, you get one free developer class per month. So lots of training. And finally, you can also become a Diamond sponsor. You'll have your name or your company name listed on a sponsors page that will be shown on each video as long as you're a sponsor. You'll get a shout out in the video and a link to your website or product in the text below the video and on my website. So that's it. Once again, my name is Richard Rost. Thank you for watching this video brought to you by accesslearningzone.com. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something today. Live long and prosper, my friends. I'll see you again soon.